relation to risk management, the really key parts that I want to talk about is risk management is unique in every single organisation that exists, and that is one of the reasons that makes it so incredibly challenging. There are standardised ways of looking at it, but the risk in your organisation is different today than it is next week, than it is going to be in 3 months' time, and that's where the difficulty is with it. Inherently, you're all service providers, you're all committed to what you're doing, you're all very knowledgeable, and in your head, you know what those things are that wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and make you go, goodness, I really, really hope that doesn't happen, because that's going to be a bad day if that one bad thing happens. Risk management is about trying to formalise that and minimising the chances of those things happening. What we're trying to do, as it says here, is look and say, what are the risks that we know about, and the first one, that they're very, very small, and trying to make sure that we can capture as many of them as possible. We are never going to get all of the risks that are in a certain situation, but we should be trying to capture as many of them as we can and do something about it. Risk management has evolved a lot over the last number of years, and HCI have played a big role in this, and it's impressive to see how they've channelled it and where it's gone to. Yes, there's risk management in general in relation to the organisation, and yes, there's health and safety, which is predominantly related to the health and safety and the welfare of our staff, which is particularly relevant home care organisations about lone working. But the individual risk management has also been hugely prioritised, and is the concept of positively supporting people to take risks and support them to take risks rather than reduce their choice and their activities because we're afraid that it might be of risk to them to actually see. What we do know is that in the risk management cycle, which we'll all have seen, and the theory of it is all there, that the risks are identified, we find sometimes that people get very far on the risk identification part, but we don't always close it off in relation to what the controls are. I was in a nursing home last week, and they said, look, we are leaving our door open, we have an open door access policy to this nursing home, we've had it for 20 years, we've never had a problem with it, and our residents are fine. And that's grand, but they hadn't actually detailed what the controls were to make sure that everybody was okay. The reason that they've never had a problem with their open door policy is that there are 2 offices directly beside the front door, and there's always someone there watching and making sure that everything is okay. If they remove those controls out of the situation, their risk is actually elevated to a higher level. Similarly, if we look at home care organisations, what's important on it, what keeps it so unique, is the changing nature of the services that you're providing. If we're looking one week and you find that a large proportion of your staff are in one geographical area, well then the risk the following week might be quite significantly different if they're then dispersed over a wider geographical space. We don't have the same contact with people, they're travelling further, the risk that they might be delayed, the risk they mightn't get to people is all of a sudden increased. If we're looking at our details and our information, our statistics, and it's telling us that actually we've had a large turnover of staff, and when we look and see it, we have a large number of new staff this week, our risks are higher than they were 2 weeks earlier. And that's the idea behind risk management, is that we get a baseline of where our risks are, but it has to be constantly monitored depending on the type of people that we're giving services to, what the services are, and what our staff actually are doing and how they're looking at it. Key part of it, as I said, to be proactive about it, to put in place controls on it and try to establish where it is.